Just lying here on the floor, cold towels, my feet against the door. How long have I been in this space? Arms over eyes, help me retrace. How did I become the doormat here? Memories spinning around my head seem pretty cavalier. Little by little you take control. It's a little uncivil how your game's in motion. And I don't even notice that I'm playing your game. Till you leave me a warning thinking I'm the one to blame. From my heart has made it pretty clear. Little by little you take control. It's a little uncivil how your game's in motion. And I don't even notice that I'm playing your game. Till you leave me alone and thinking I'm the one to
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Saturday night coverage of the WSSR Roasted Gems Cup Series on Freaky Fast Broadcasting. The drivers have gotten themselves set up and prepared for the playoffs that are now upon us. These playoffs, different from others that you've seen us cover here on Freaky Fast before, it's a chase format, meaning these drivers have 5 races. Whoever has the most points after these 5 races comes away with the Season 6 championship. But it all starts here at the Legacy, Kentucky track for these drivers for 150 laps. And one interesting thing to be noted on, there are a few drivers missing from the playoffs here tonight. The biggest one, Vincent Sora. We'll talk about those other drivers that are missing out as well, but We cannot wait to get you into the full coverage for tonight's race. My name is Sam Dyer. Joining me is Trevor Earhart. And Trevor, we got the news last week. Vincent Sora not going to be racing for tonight's event. Certainly is going to be a crazy one here tonight.
Yeah, it opens up the playoffs, the playoff picture for sure. I think the favorite from everybody coming into this season, missing out on the first round, it's going to give the likes of Zach Hall, Cedric Hunter, Brandon Cawley, Brian Johnson all a chance to get a championship here. But it's all going to start tonight, Sam, and it's going to start right here in qualifying with who's going to get the pole and who's going to have the track position.
The drivers that are coming into tonight, Zach Hall, regular season championship winner. So he's going to be coming in with the most amount of points out of anyone else. But from each driver down, they've got only a 2-point difference between each other. But that means that Zach Hall coming into this race has a 30-point advantage over 16th place in points, Bob Skinner. So a lot of points are more so helping the drivers up front. And if we see any of those top dogs, such as Zach Hall, Cedric Hunter, Brandon Cawley, Ryan Johnson, Tom Stenchak, slip up either tonight or in the next couple of weeks, they certainly can give an opportunity for the drivers deeper in the field and the points to get back into this race. Drivers are underway with qualifying as they're going to be having 5 minutes to get their times and 2 laps to get it done. As you're seeing Ryan Bird put in the first time, colors, markers are going to be the drivers that are in the playoffs. The ways that they got into the playoffs was by pointing your way in. If you had the allotted points to be in this top 16, found yourself being in the playoffs here tonight as Ryan Bird still top of the board on that first lap, but this is on the Legacy Kentucky course. And Trevor, that's going to be the big difference for these drivers, as a lot of them got used to the current scan of this track. Kentucky no longer being ran currently, but certainly this Legacy scan a lot different from others.
Yeah, a lot different than what the drivers are used to. You think of Kentucky, you think of kind of a reverse Texas, banked in 1 and 2 and then flat in 3 and 4. But here at the Legacy track, it's flat in 1 and 2 as well. So a little bit of an adjustment. We saw a little bit of a wiggle there from Thomas Walter in his qualifying lap on his second lap, coming out of 1. And I think that's going to be something these drivers are going to have to deal with, trying to carry all the speed on these flat corners. These cars lack that side force that they're used to in the old Gen 6 car. So we could see a lot of loose race cars coming out of the corners here tonight.
Thomas Walter just on screen proved it. You just talked about how on that first lap it got wiggly loose off the exit. He did it once again there as drivers are getting their qualifying times in. We're past halfway on the timer. Only 16 drivers officially put in at least one time for themselves. Here's going to be the 86 machine of Rich Jameson, hoping to put in a good time as Rich comes in 11th in points for the playoffs and the way that it starts. And being so deep in the playoff run, he's got a giant hole if he wants to run for a championship. He is 20 points off of that as Zach Hall. 20 points off and just completed his second lap, good enough for 11th position. So pretty good jump up there from Rich. His first lap had him at about 18th position. So second lap goes all the way up to 11th at Mark Morales on track and might have brushed the wall just a little bit. Looks like he's running a high line, trying to build that momentum in that 91 machine as he comes through the line to start his qualifying. Speed from the 91.5. That first lap that ticks in will not be valid, but it was a 33.096. If that time did count, he would have been the slowest of the drivers that have gotten a time officially placed. The 91, though, going to be heading his way into turns 3 and 4. The 91 hitting the inside, trying to get to that yellow line, but he's running about a half a groove high from it and already looking a little bit loose. As Mark Morales trying to keep the speed as he comes across the line. The 91 didn't get the first lap valid. The second one will count, and that's going to be placed him in the back half of the field, 15th for Mark Morales.
Interesting strategy there from Martin. Kind of went with a throwaway first lap, trying to get some heat in the tires, get some momentum built up, but unfortunately brushed the wall, so the lap time didn't count, and I don't think he was as quick as he wanted to be on that second lap for himself, but 15th for himself is Tyler Dangler. I think the only car left on track is his first time, comes in at a 32.56, putting him the slowest of our drivers to take time so far.
As he's going to be hoping to get this time in. He's got 22 seconds to finish out this lap as he's on the backstretch. Should be good to get this time in. 3 drivers were not able to get a time in, 2 deciding not to, that of James Kaufman and James Hackworth Jr. Bob Skinner going to be sliding and getting involved with the wall on his first lap and just called it quits after that. 5, 4, 3, and Tyler Dangler is able to cross the line with just 2 seconds left, but only goes up a position to 18th. So it's going to be a long night for some of these drivers that qualified deeper in the field. Had a total of 16 drivers make the playoffs, only 13 able to show up for tonight's event. And let's see where the drivers are going to start out here tonight as qualifying results for these drivers sponsored by Colley's mom. Brandy's Colley's mom sponsored last season and also going to be sponsoring this season, who's hoping to see her son get a pole position. He did a great job at it earlier in the season. Tonight, where's the one machine? We'll have to find out as we take a look here at the qualifying results. It's Zach Hall taking the pole award. Second goes to Aaron Krolick. Third goes to Cedric Hunter. Justin Lewis fourth. Fifth is Tom Sinchek. Ryan Burke going to take sixth. Larry Yingling in seventh. Christopher Norris eighth. Ninth is going to be Brian P. Johnson. And 10th is going to be Steven Stimpian. Where is Colley? No one knows, but the disappointment continues to rise, Trevor.
It very much does. Rich Jameson's going to roll off 11th and all the way down there in 12th. Disappointing his mother once again. It's going to be the one of Brandon Colley rolling off in 12th position. Jonathan Cogswell is going to roll off in 13th with Isaac Mock in 14th. Martin Morales 15th. Ryan Crowfoot in 16th. Thomas Walter will start in 17th with Tyler Dangler in 18th. Orianus 19th. Bob Skinner 20th. And then James Kaufman and James Hackworth Jr. will round out our field here tonight.
22 drivers expected to take the field here this evening. Zach Hall got the regular season championship, comes into the night with a 2-point buffer over Vincent Sora, who does not show up here tonight. He's currently at prom, so have a great night that of Vinny, and hopefully you can come back with some vengeance next week, as we got to give some shout outs to our amazing sponsors that are here for the WSSR that allows us to give you this coverage here tonight. And starting things off, it's Roasted Gems Coffee. Roasted Gems Coffee is the title sponsor of the WSSR. If you'd like to get yourself some premium coffee, well, go over to their website, roastedgems.com. They've got great selection that you can find, as well as some great merch that they've just started to pump out. And if you'd like to get 5% off, go use the promo code WSSR on purchase. Thank you again to Roasted Gems Coffee, and a sponsor that is partnering up this season but has been used here at WSSR for the last 2 seasons and even this one. It's Trophy Smack. If you want to show off and be the envy of your competition, head over to TrophySmack.com and get yourself a championship belt, trophy, or ring, as you can get those completely customizable, and the winner of the championship get their own customizable WSSR Season 6 ring. As Vincent Sora has gotten the last 2 rings the last 2 seasons, this season it could be someone brand new. Big thank you to Trophy Smack and Roasted Gems Coffee, and it for 10% off at Trophy Smack. Remember to use the promo code WSSR Cup. That's WSSR CUP all together for 10% off on all purchases. Well, the drivers are set. We're ready to go. It's playoff racing for the WSSR Roasted Gems Cup Series. 150 laps, no stage breaks, no fast repairs, 4 sets of tires in pit road, and into the restart zone. We are green here at the Legacy, Kentucky, as Zach Hall and Eric Krolick send us down into turn number 1.
And Zach Hall deciding to take the outside on this restart, maybe feeling that he can have a little bit better of a launch into 1. Aaron Krolick, almost a little bit of contact between our 2 leaders as they're still side by side for that lead position. Krolick's going to have a good run here out of turn number 2 with help from the 13 of Cedric Hunter, but Zach Hall holding strong on that outside as he tries to defend this lead and get this lap led. But through 3 and 4, it's still going to be Krolick on the inside. Cedric Hunter lurking, and Zach Hall's going to lose that lead position here out of turn number 4.
Plenty of different drivers trying different lanes. One getting to the outside wall. That's going to be Steven Stimpian. About lap number 1. Give it to the 0-1. Aaron Krolick going to lead that lap. Zach Hall fighting on the outside, continuing to be where he's at this moment. In different colors and schemes out there on track. As you see in the black machines, that's Cedric Hunter and Christopher Norris rocking some different schemes than their usuals. But Zach Hall leading the way as he'll try to lead lap number 2. But the 2 black schemes, watch out, as they're going to try to be the threats of the night.
That's going to be hard to differentiate between those 2 cars, other than the numbers on the side of them looking identical in black there, Norris, and that of Cedric Hunter as they follow the 0-1 of Aaron Kralik after Zach Hall able to get around the outside. Now Cedric Hunter is going to try to use that outside line to get around the 38 of Norris, but Norris with a great drive through the center of 1 and 2 is now going to get to the inside of Aaron Kralik, but I think the inside line, Sam, not where you want to be as Cedric Hunter gets a huge run and a big shove to the 0-1 to try to clear that 38.
Massive shove to the 0-1 as that of Cedric Hunter outside lane. We're used to seeing him in the pink, but instead going to be in the dark of the night in that black machine on the outside. Christopher Norris in the other black machine on the inside. 2 other machines though behind them that are looking similar. It's the late Apex crew of Tom Sinchek and Ryan Bird, and squeezed in between them it's the 0-7 of Justin Lewis, who's found some free time to be racing, and Norris and Cedric Hunter making a little bit of contact. They hold on for one another, but this track already showing a little bit of character, Trevor, with these drivers trying to hold on.
The drivers wiggling all about through the center of the corner, especially when they're side by side. You saw it right there with Hunter and Norris. Thankfully, both of them able to keep it straight. The big winner out of all that, Ryan Bird, he was able to get by his teammate and Cedric Hunter. Almost got by Christopher Norris as we're on board with Brandon Colley as he's trying to find a way around the 07 of Justin Lewis. But he's riding in the line right now, trying to figure out where he wants to place that one machine. But he's got a driver to his outside, and that's Brian Johnson in another all-black machine that just powered by him on the outside through turn number 2.
It's almost like they decided these were practice schemes and they just forgot to switch out. I believe also there's been a little bit of complications with trade and paints the last couple of days. And it seems like maybe something would have carried over with seeing the black machines out there. Know that this is a common thing. I know on my end, I'm seeing the exact same thing that the broadcast is seeing. So this is a wide range issue. And Trevor, it certainly is going to be kind of difficult for the viewers to tell. We're going to do our best to call out when we see these drivers that are in all black on who's who. But at least you know they're in the playoffs with the red banners that they have.
Yeah, thankfully the red banners make it a little bit easier to tell they're a playoff driver, but I have it kind of lucky, Sam. I see Cedric Hunter in the his standard pink color, so I can at least tell it's Cedric Hunter. But for Brian Johnson, Christopher Norris, if they get battling side by side, that one might be a tad bit confusing. Is a big log jam right there with Cedric Hunter, Tom Sinchek. Now the 07 of Lewis going to dive it to the inside. Brian Johnson trying to work his way forward through the field as he's going to try to split the gap as Lewis gets really loose out of turn number 2 and is going to lose a couple of positions here.
This is going to be something to carry on and talk about moving forward. Is that loose condition going to be something that goes away with the heat that builds up in the tires, or is that something that's going to build up and get worse and progressively worse as the run carries on? As right now, side by side, going to be seeing the drivers battling for 4th place. That's Tom Sinchek on the inside to get by Christopher Norris, who now falls to 5th position. We talked about there of, well, we might have issues if Christopher Norris and Brian Johnson start racing with one another. Well, they're now in line. As you also see Steven Stimpian, a great recovery from the 81 machine who got into the outside wall on the entry of 3 and 4 back on lap number 1.
Yeah, thankfully for Stimpian with these cars, and I feel like we touch on it every week, they can take a little bit of a beating, so Stimpian probably fine after that little bit of a brush with the wall as he goes to battle with the 13 of Cedric Hunter there, trying to get to his inside as the 07 of Lewis follows suit. Brandon Colley right behind Colley, taking a really high line as Lewis now gets to the inside of the 13 after Stimpian completes that pass. So that battle continues now behind as Cedric Hunter looking like he's struggling here a little early on in this race.
Struggling, maybe saving those tires, hard to tell at this moment as we're on lap number 9. Could be starting to see here in the next 5 to 6 laps on who is going to be saving those tires, maybe make a little bit more of an aggressive push. One thing that we do know for sure, our top 2 are gone. Zach Hall, Aaron Kralik, they are a full 2.5 seconds ahead of 3rd place of Tom Sinchek and Ryan Bird of late Apex, and it's quite a while. In 10 laps, what a gap that's already been built up.
Yeah, they built a pretty good gap. The question is that they use a little bit too much of their equipment building that gap. Zach Hall still pacing at about a 32.2, and everybody else around him running in the 32.3s, 32.4. So Zach still has pretty good pace in that 42 machine as he puts down a pretty quick lap right there. Everybody in the top 3, all similar lap times, Sam. So they're not, doesn't look like they're taking it easy quite yet, just trying to build gaps to one another and then kind of ride out until we get to those green flag pit stops.
We do have some drivers deeper in the field that have been saving on their tires. That last time by the fastest driver on track, 11th place runner of the 27 of Jonathan Cogswell, the fastest driver that last lap. We'll see this go around. The 27 might have been one of those drivers really saving his equipment. now trying to put the pressure to catch up to the drivers ahead of them that have been battling so aggressively in the early portions of this race.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen with all the sliding going on, and it can really hurt your car, especially those tires. We know how sensitive the right rear tire is, and every little slide kind of builds more heat, and too much heat in that right rear tire can really cause you to have some handling issues. So Cogswell going with a little bit safer of an approach for himself and closing in on that of Cedric Hunter and Brandon Colley as well.
Staying a battle deeper in the field. This is for 14th, 15th, and 16th. It's the 7 of Corey Ennis, as well as Ryan Crowfoot and Rich Jameson closing on top of one another. Bob Skinner in the 81 back here deep in the field. Bob Skinner made the playoffs. He gets to rock the red banner, as well as that of Rich Jameson, and they are going to be drivers that are hoping for some decent runs. They're deeper in the field in points. They need some of these top drivers that struggle, but for tonight's type of a race, surviving might be just the best thing. Try to minimize any mistakes, as some drivers that are racing side by side for 12th. It's Larry Yingling and newcomer Isaac Mock, who was able to sign up today. He was able to race here tonight. Excited to see new drivers coming in. It feels like almost every week, Trevor, we're seeing new drivers popping up that have raced in previous seasons or just brand new to the WSSR series.
It's always good to see drivers join, especially late into the season. You know, adding a couple drivers here and there it is really nice to see, and Isaac doing a really good job here. And he's got a lot of playoff drivers racing around him and doing a good job at racing them nice and clean, and Larry just getting by him. And Larry down here in 12th, you know, I'm kind of surprised. He was the fastest car in practice and down 5 spots from where he qualified. So Larry, I think, might have gone with a little bit of a tire saving strategy and now trying to work his way back up through the field.
Yeah, right now Larry's pace is good enough to place him around 6th and 5th position, but qualifying was not there for the 67. When he qualified 7th, fell back 5 positions, and kind of a learning experience for that of Larry Yingling, but exciting to see this driver. I think that was the big thing at the start of the season, and even the last couple of seasons. We've had a lot of talking of how do we bring Larry back. He's the first 2-time champ of this series, and one of the favorites to win every championship when he showed up back when the drivers were running the Gen 6 Cup car. They're now running currently the Gen 7 Cup car, the next Gen Cup machine that's now has 5 years. It's so much more difficult to handle at times. For the 67, it's been on a learning curve since he started back all the way back in race number 2 and 3.
Yeah, and he's done a really good job, you know, getting to grips with this car rather quickly for himself. And now just trying to drive up through the field here as he gets around the 07 of that of Justin Lewis, who's really starting to struggle now, and he's caught up to that 27 machine of Jonathan Cogswell as we're on board with Larry. You see how much he kind of has to work the wheel through the corner. Here's Sam as you go through 3 and 4. Really nice and smooth, but you see just a little bit of corrections he has to have over the bumps to keep that car going in a straight line.
There are a lot of different ways you can attack this course, and the producer pointed out, and also us seeing it there, shifting is an aspect that is going on right now. Drivers are shifting down into 4th gear, up to 5th, and interesting calls by some of the drivers. Some deciding just to stay in 5th gear, others are shifting down into 4th gear, and when drivers are shifting down, Trevor, what I'm noticing is drivers on the backstretch that shift down in 4th gear, they stay into 4th gear. It's not until they hit the front stretch when they shift up into 5th.
Yeah, maybe just a momentum thing. Shifting down one, it helps get the car to rotate, can carry a little bit more speed through the center of the corner. But I think by the time they come off of turn number 2, it doesn't benefit you to get up into 5th gear before you get to 3 and 4. I think you carry a little bit more speed through 3 and 4 down the front stretch, which causes them to shift up to 5th. But interesting to see that some guys are shifting and others are not. And just watch our leader, Zach Hall. He's electing as one of those not to shift, so he's staying in 5th. So interesting strategy. Could help some drivers as they work through the field. We saw it kind of last week as well at USA Speedway with drivers downshift and choosing to downshift and others not.
Another driver around noticing outside the shift, Steven Stinker in the 81 is staying in 5th gear all the way through, as other drivers further down the field also deciding to stay in 5th. I think that's something we're noticing in fast drivers. They are ripping it. Man, some crazy racing right now, though.
Yeah, it's the cool thing, the nice thing about these the next gen cars. It gives you options, gives you the options to downshift, to not downshift, and kind of creates a different style of racing than typically what we see week in, week out. Is Cedric Hunter is going to go for a pass here on the 28, or I'm sorry, the 38 of Christopher Norris, and gets that pass done into turn number one. Is you've got right behind them Larry Yingling, Brandon Cawley, Cogswell, all kind of nose to tail in a line trying to get around one another.
Larry Yingling on the move is the 67. He is running just as fast as our leader, faster at times, as seeing this pod of drivers being led currently by that of Cedric Hunter, and then he also have Christopher Norris, Larry Yingling, and Brandon Cawley, and Jonathan Cogswell. 7th back to 11th in this shot. It's a 67 that seems to be on the aggressive approach of trying to set up these drivers to make the passes. And Trevor, you've ran at the more current scan of Kentucky. Have you ran a lot in the Legacy, or is this brand new for you?
I probably have one race in the Legacy Kentucky, and I think it was in a truck. So this is pretty much new to me, especially in the Gen 7 car. I know the new scan of Kentucky, you can set up passes through 3 and 4 was the best place to kind of set up passes with the variety of lines you could take through there. But with 1 and 2 being kind of the same, it kind of gives you options to set up passes all the way around. Is with the new track, with the banking that they added in 1 and 2, you just kind of held it, wide open. And if you lost a little bit of momentum, you might lose the spot. But looks to me, both ends of the racetrack here tonight, Sam, equal in opportunity to make passes.
Equal in opportunity, equal in mistakes potentially happening. We saw there in the first 8 to 10 laps, drivers really getting loose and struggling to keep the car underneath them. We've seen a lot of stability currently for these drivers. We fall back to the 6th place, where Steven Stympian is running for himself. And gotta say, this 81 has done a great job on recovering. Again, he fell back all the way to 11th after scrubbing off the outside wall for a few moments in the early portions of this race. But now he is up to 6th, settling, and right now 1.2 seconds off 5th place. But Cedric Hunter is trying to close in the gap with the very quick Larry Yingling behind.
Yeah, and good to have Steven Stympian back. Just a couple of weeks, missed out on a chance to run for a championship, but good to have him back here in the 81 machine tonight. But he's got a lot of hungry drivers behind him, like you touched on. Cedric Hunter, Larry Yingling, closing in, Norris, Cawley, Cogswell. If he's not careful here in the next lap or so, I mean, he could lose about 3 or 4 positions here.
He very much could. So right now, biggest movers on track going to be the drivers in the middle of the field. Corey Ennis up 5 positions, but we've seen a lot of other drivers that have lost a lot of ground. Justin Lewis just 2 positions ahead of this 7, down 8 positions, as well as Cedric Hunter down 5. The drivers trying to go on the recovery run, but it's good to see Corey Ennis, who again, I felt like we talk about this each and every week, has been having a lot of ups and down moments, really looking for a solidified top 10 type of a run. Currently in 14th. This race is not over by a long shot, as we still have over 120 laps to go.
Yeah, it just seems qualify as well, and then something will happen, or have a bad qualifying run and kind of a bad race. I think last week at USA was kind of the latter half of that. Didn't qualify well and spun a couple times on the front stretch as we moved back up. Larry Yingling clearing now the 81 of Stympian and continuing his march forward here, Sam. That 67 machine moving pretty quickly through the field and about a 10th quicker than that of Zach Hall and about 2/10 quicker than that of Aaron Kralik and Ryan Bird.
Out of 67, he is having a great run. I mean, look at some of the tracks where we've seen the 67 have success just this season. Very much the oddball tracks of Nashville Super Speedway. He found himself in a victory lane for the 67. Then it went back to other ovals. Twin Ring Motegi found himself 3rd. North Wilkesboro was at 3rd. Texas Oval finished 4th, which that was an incredible run, as that was the first race that he had coming back to running on iRacing in over a year. The 67 certainly has the pace at ovals, and I think that's why we're seeing the speed. It's just the fact that he backed off so much, he's got to recover all that time.
Yeah, and this Legacy Kentucky kind of reminds me a little bit of Nashville, kind of flat, 1.5-mile track, and he got the win there when we were there, so not surprised at all to see him be this strong and working his way up through the field. Is Sinchek going to go for second place here on the Owen of Kralik, and it looks like Kralik just going to let that 8 machine have that position as Tom was able to run him down. And now 3 seconds back is Zach Hall, and looking at the times, not a lot, about a 10th off our leader. So see if Sinchek can have anything to run, see if he has anything to run down this 42 now that he's got some clean air.
Run him down as much as possible as this 8. We'll see if on this, not this upcoming time that's about to clock in, but the lap after that, on what the pace is like with Sinchek having a little bit more fresh air to work with, as he's only about 3/10 off of Zach Hall. But like I said, 3 seconds is the gap from first back to second place. And Zach Hall, our regular season champion, he was having a heated battle with Vincent Sora. And I gotta say, Zach Hall, he's been preparing for this race, preparing for the playoffs since 42. I've been hearing about it throughout the week that he's been spending a lot more time trying to put in the quality moments and finding his speed. He got the pole, now leading up front. He missed out on the first lap. That's all that he has missed on leading laps so far here tonight. And his 42 definitely looking like the favorite here tonight as we're getting ourselves prepared for pit stops in the next 20 laps or so.
Yeah, this is the night that Zach Hall needed to have, lead a lap, lead the most laps, and potentially get a win here tonight. I mean, with Vincent Sora being gone, I think this is the type of performance that Zach definitely wants to have to pretty much solidify himself, I believe, as a championship favorite, barring any bad luck for the next 4 races after this.
Yeah, I would say that he's a major favorite to watch out for. I mean, with Vincent Sora missing those 4 buffer points between himself and what will become second, certainly a huge comfort level is building up for himself as we fall back to see some of the drivers deeper in the field. This is Christopher Norris on screen, trying to pass the 81 is Steven Stympian, and Stympian right now in 9th. He's around the position where he qualified for this 81. Christopher Norris trying to get a little bit more aggressive as drivers having issues on the backstretch. The 7 machine of Corey Ennis having to come into pit road. A bad exit attitude for the 7 machine that got him in trouble and into the inside wall. It looks like he's going to have to be forced to pit road. Major damage, you can see it on screen, just completely ripped apart is that right side as he has required damage and is forced to pit road.
Yeah, I went back and watched it. Just got loose out of turn number 2, came up, hit the outside wall, and I tell you who got really lucky and all that was the 86 of Rich Jamison, because it happened right in front of him. Barely missed that 7 of Corey Ennis, so almost a little bit of trouble for one of our playoff drivers, but able to avoid that as you see Corey Ennis come to pit road and get service done on that 7 machine. As Martin Morales on track here is 16th right now, Sam, and he's got the 04 Thomas Walter right behind him. And Martin just having a nice quiet race down 1 spot from where he qualified, but still out there on track, cruising around, getting some laps in.
Yeah, Martin coming off of some very strong runs on Monday night for the ISRC Truck Series, where he's been finishing in the top 10 for the past 3 weeks, but here in the Cup car for WSSR, been just trying to survive, make his way through, and just come away with some good top 15 runs. And with running where he's at right now at 16th, it is highly possible. Thomas Walter, on the other hand, one of those drivers to watch out for, but here is the chaos. It is Ryan Bird, Brian P. Johnson, who's the black machine on the inside, trying to make the pass on the late apex as they're being hunted and hounded by Larry Yingling, who is in a prime position to take a 2-for-1 here.
Yeah, Larry just trying to find that opening to see where he can put this 67 machine, but right now it's side-by-side Johnson Bird down into turn number 1. Johnson's going to drive it in a little bit deep, clear that 49 machine, though, slide up in front of him. Now Larry going to try to take this opening to get to the inside of the 49, almost gets to his bumper, but having to tuck right back in line. And Cedric Hunter has now caught up to the back of this little battle here as he's going to try to see if he can sneak his way by maybe Ryan Bird or Larry Yingling if either one of them have an issue.
I think for Cedric Hunter, he's done a great job of just hitching his way to the 67 and saying, hey, I'll learn from you, following the tire tracks and see where the speed is coming from. I think, one, you can give the speed to Larry Yingling on the fact that he saved these tires as well as anyone here tonight. And also, he's running that half a groove higher than the yellow line, while everyone else has been definitively a full car length up or 2 from the yellow line, trying to give spacing. 67, Trevor, he is very confident on throwing that 67 to the inside lane.
Yeah, it just looks like he's more comfortable on that bottom line. Like you said, everybody's kind of a full groove off the bottom. Larry only a half groove. And that might be what's attributing to the less tire wear, maybe not putting as much heat in that right rear tire, running that higher line, carrying more speed as he still tries to do battle here with the 49. Always gets a little loose, but hangs on to it. And that's going to allow the 13 of Cedric Hunter now to get to his outside. Is that's kind of the mistake that Cedric was waiting to see.
Cedric Hunter in the black schemes, a couple of them out there on track, as there was an issue with some third-party issues on why we're not able to see these schemes fully to their best. As the black scheme ahead, that's Brian Johnson, the one that's in shot now in that third car. That's Cedric Hunter, and Christopher Norris is the other scheme that's in all black. As Larry Yingling got to give it another try to get by Ryan Bird. Bird looking with a little bit of a shimmy, but able to keep the momentum at least and hold on to this position as we're at 40 laps into this first run. The question is, when do you want to come into pit road? And Trevor, that was something that you and I were both trying to theorize. We weren't given an exact number. We were thinking around, what, lap 50 to 55, maybe even 60 was an option there.
Yeah, I'm thinking somewhere between there. Typically, you know, on these mile-and-a-half racetracks, you get about 50 to 60, depending on it. It looks like Ryan a little bit tight there through 1 and 2. He's going to give that position up to Larry. Now here comes the 13 of Cedric Hunter trying to get to his inside. But yeah, Sam, I'm thinking somewhere in that window, and when we get those green flag pit stops, we saw last week some pit road issues, and again this week, with the way this race is looking, it has a potential to go green all the way. You cannot afford to make a mistake on pit road when those pit stops happen.
Absolutely not. As Brian P. Johnson was get by Aaron Kralik. Kralik, who led lap number 1, qualified second. A decent job of keeping in tow with Zach Hall, but in the last 20 laps, 0-1 has been slowly falling back, and those tires just don't look as crisp. And this has been one of the struggles for Aaron Kralik, has been the longer runs, the extended runs that we get into. Because that short to medium run, the 01 is just as good as any of the drivers that are in the top 5 at most tracks we go to.
Yeah, he's got that short, medium run speed. Like you said, the long run, looking at his lap times, that last lap for himself at 33.3. The issue is, you know, Larry Yingling with a 33 flat, Brian Johnson with a 33.1. So, I mean, he's about 2 tenths off the pace, 2 to 3 tenths off the pace from our leaders and the guys that are around him.
We're seeing Aaron Kralik being passed by this train of drivers. We do have one driver that's going to hit pit road. We already saw Corey Ennis, who's still dealing with required damage. Tyler Dangler was in front of the 7, and we already seen him on pit road, both dealing with extended damage, but making their first official pit stop. It's going to be the 27, Jonathan Cogswell, who's just leaving pit road now. That's an extreme early pit stop as the 01 trying to stay off the wall, as finally getting by is Cedric Hunter for 5th place.
Interesting call there from Cogswell, who was running, I believe, just outside the top 10 for himself. Was having a really good run and coming down pit road early. Isaac Mock down pit road as well. So I'm wondering if that means our leaders coming around sometime the lap 50 mark, maybe, with how early these pit stops are going for these guys, or are they just making extremely early pit stops for themselves?
Currently, right now, if we're basing off of our leader, Zach Hall, Zach's best time that he put in is Kralik. Big wiggle out of turn 2, able to hold on to the 0-1. I think for some drivers, it could be just a tire reason on why they're feeling like they need to come into pit road. I don't think it's a fuel issue, I would say, but for Zach Hall, that last lap put down a 33.1, which is a little bit over a second slower than his best time of a 32.0. And that's just, again, basing off of our leaders. Usually at 1.5 tracks, it's around 1.5 seconds to about 2 seconds is that window drivers look for if you're off of your best time. And we see drivers hit pit road. Others decided to pit early. I think that undercut may work just because of the lack of speed that we're really starting to see here, Trevor.
It could work out for him, and going to be an interesting pit strategy to go on, pitting that early. But I mean, if this race goes green all the way, it could really benefit those guys, as they might be able to make up a lot of time, considering, like we were talking about, the 1 to 1.5 second speed difference between old and new tires.
A lack of difference in pace, that means we could see a plateau hit for these drivers. It's been a gradual 2 to 3 laps. You see a slight dip in the speeds. As here's a battle going on for 3rd place, as it's going to be seeing Brian P. Johnson, Larry Yingling. Larry once again on the move, having Cedric Hunter in tow. Brian Johnson on the outside. Behind him in the other black machine, going to be Cedric Hunter. Larry Yingling in the black and blue, trying to make this inside lane work where he's been all night long, making this charge forward. Let's also see behind them, Kralik, outside wall. Again, that's 0-1. Those tires are toasted. He's got to be thinking about pit stops here shortly. As you see the pass made on the outside lane, holding strong. And Cedric Hunter, he's trying to make this move on Larry.
Yeah, Cedric Hunter saw the opportunity there after Larry got a little loose trying to get the inside of Brian Johnson. But this second or third time Cedric's had this opportunity, hasn't been able to clear this 67 machine. But maybe now has the chance to do so. But he's going to run a little bit high, I think, out of turn number 2. They're still going to be side by side, battling it out for 4th and 5th position between the two. And Cedric Hunter with a better run is actually going to be able to clear that 67.
That's an interesting thing to see. That's another driver's going to hit pit road. Bob Skinner is about to enter into his box. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining with us on your Saturday night, watching the WSSR Roasted Gems Cup Series. If you're just joining us, welcome. Zach Hall, who got the pole award, has been leading this race and dominating for most of the night. We are just about to enter a full pit cycle as drivers are entering pit road further back in the field. Haven't seen anyone up front make that decision just yet. As Justin Lewis hits pit road. But we're watching the WSSR Roasted Gems Cup Series. It's the first race of 5 in the playoffs. These drivers utilizing a chase format, meaning the drivers that are in the 16 drivers that made the playoffs. It is all about who earns the most points after 5 races wins the championship. Zach Hall, who was the regular season champion, leading the way up front. My name is Sam Dyer. With me is Trevor Earhart Rodmore Jr. in the background. We're at lap 51. 1/3 of the race is done. And Trevor, it's like pit stops starting to trickle in on who's coming into pit road.
Starting to get a couple of takers here as Mark Morales brings that A1 machine down pit road. We've already seen Cogswell, Lewis, Mock, Skinner make their pit stops. Now we're just waiting on the leaders to come down pit road, and I'm surprised with how much we've seen the struggling of the 01 of Aaron Kralik. We haven't seen him come down pit road, but right now watching that of Steven Stimpian and that of the 86 of Rich Jameson do battle here with one another as they try to figure out who's going to have that. I believe they're battling there for 11th, and Stimpian's really starting to, I think, struggle here, Sam, on these older tires.
Stimpian, who had to go on a massive charge just to recover after getting to the outside wall, starting to lose more ground than he would like. But driver that was up front into pit road, it is the 67 of Larry Yingling following behind. Going to be Steven Stimpian. And Larry, I am major surprised, I think, in my eyes, on the fact that he's pitting this soon. But it could be a strategy call. He's starting to catch up to Zach Hall and thinking, hey, I've got the better long run pace. Coming to pit road, gain this time back that I've already lost, and hope that the gaps kind of equal up in the long run as Zach Hall stays out for another lap for the 42.
Yeah, seeing Larry pit, this might bring in some of our top 5, top 10 drivers down pit road with how early he pit, and looking at the times. I mean, Zach Hall looking like he's starting to struggle just a little bit. Tom Sinchek was about 3 seconds back, now got that down to 2.3 seconds, so cut 7/10 off that lead from Zach Hall, and was a 10th quicker that last time by, along with Brian Johnson. Zach Hall's going to bring you down pit road.
Zach Hall into pit road. Watch and see Tom Sinchek. Sinchek's going to stay out for another lap. Same for that of Ryan B. Johnson and Cedric Hunter. Joining Zach Hall, going to be Brandon Colley in the 1 machine. Anyone else going to join in? Yes, it's going to be Rich Jameson as well in the 86, joining into pit road. As our front runner makes this pit stop, got to be crossing your fingers that we don't see a yellow flag, as we've seen this in other leagues where we're in the middle of a green flag pit stop, a yellow flag can strike. And especially on the fact that these tires, when they're cold, Trevor, we saw a lot of drivers having issues in those first 8 laps into a run. We'll see if they can stay secure as Tom Sinchek now hits pit road.
And here comes Sinchek, and yeah, we saw how loose they were on cold tires, so now he's been out there on old tires this whole time. Come in, get some fresh tires, and we can really see some slipping and sliding out there on the racetrack as Sinchek comes in. I think he's the only one that time by of our leaders that came down pit road, so it's going to turn the lead over to Brian Johnson, Cedric Hunter, Aaron Kralik, Ryan Bird, Norris. Your top 5 still have yet to pit with Crowfoot, Walter, and Hackworth. The last 8 still to make their pit stops here.
And something we didn't have time to touch on, pit road exit. The apron is very thin. You can make mistakes by accidentally crossing over the yellow line. And I believe we've got caught by one of our front runners, Steven Stimpian, a black flag to the 81. He is yet to come into pit road. And based off how the black flag system works, he only has about a lap or two before he has to come into pit road. And I think he might be banking on the fact that we could get a yellow. But this 81 in trouble. If he does not come into pit road this lap or the next, he could get disqualified here.
I think it's this lap that he has to come down and serve this penalty, Sam. I don't know if it was a pit road exit, like speeding penalty on exit, or if it was a like a pit exit violation, but he's going to stay out for another lap, and maybe he did have that one more lap there to stay out as Christopher Norris comes down pit road, Ryan Crowfoot down pit road. But this 81, I think on this lap, definitely has to serve this penalty. Otherwise, he will be disqualified from the race.
As the 81 continues to stay out, I don't know if maybe he was. I know there's been times where drivers were not informed on their screen that they had a black flag, even though at our end it does show that the drivers have a black flag. We'll wait and see if he comes into pit road. The reason why Steven Stimpy would stay out as long as he did, trying to maximize these tires and gain as much time as possible. And here he comes. Wait until the very last moment. Steven Stimpian into pit road, and this is expected to be a pit and hold penalty for the 81, which is going to be tragic, forcing him to be at least one, maybe even 2 laps down.
Yeah, for Stimpian, got to remember that he has to, not take tires, not get any pit service. Otherwise, the penalty won't serve right away. He'll be in there even longer. He pulls into his box and starts the long, I believe, 40-second hold that he has to sit here on pit road while everybody else out on track stays at race speed, as Cedric Hunter brings that 13 machine down pit road. Now just leaving that of Johnson Kralik, Ryan Bird, Thomas Walter, and James Hackworth Jr. are last 5 cars to make their pit stops.
Okay, Trevor, let's get a little bit in depth on how these drivers could attack this pit stop. A lot of them have now pushed it out to lap 60. How much further would you want to be one of these drivers to stay out if you're Brian Johnson or Aaron Kralik? That for at least Kralik, he's struggling on pace, but yet continues to stay out on track.
Yeah, I don't know. I think everybody's going to go for, one more stop would be my guess. So you come in, the drivers came in at lap 50, 55, come in around lap 110, and then go to the end. But I think these guys, banking on the differences, as Kralik and Bird come down pit road, I think they're banking on the difference in tires, and speed-wise, and new tires and old tires. Staying out this long could benefit them at the end of the race if this goes green, but it might also hurt them with how slow they're running compared to that of Zach Hall, Larry Ewing, Tom Simchek, who already have fresh tires. They might lose too much time to these guys to really make that difference up at the end of the race.
We saw it there on screen how narrow it is on the apron. Just one simple mistake can cost you over that yellow line. If you're over the yellow line or move too soon, that could give you a black flag penalty. And Steven Stimpian with the penalty has called it a night. He has already left the server. He's done. Brian P. Johnson now going to be hitting pit road. Will Thomas Walter and Hackworth Jr. join him with this stop?
It's going to be interesting to see where Brian comes out at, how far he's going to be behind that of Zach Hall is once they cycle through. I mean, that's such a long time to stay out on those old tires. Such an interesting call, to go that of 63 laps on a set when everybody else came down pit road around lap 55, 54. So interesting call there from Brian Johnson, but I don't hate it, Sam. I mean, got to try something different, especially, he was running 5th or so before earlier started making a pit stop about that of 4 or 5 seconds behind Zach Hall. So, hey, why not try something different to see if you can gain an advantage?
So many different strategies to be thrown out. Thomas Walter, James Hackworth Jr. both need to still come into pit road. Steven Stimpian, our first driver, officially out of this race. As we're on lap 64, we are going to step away. When we come back, we'll give you more amazing racing as drivers try to unlap themselves as they await the 04 and 23 to hit pit road. You're watching the Legacy Kentucky 225 here on Freaky Fast Broadcasting, the first race of the playoffs for Season 6 of the WSSR Roasted Gems Cup Series. We're going to go side by side so you don't miss a thing. We'll see you in a bit.
Isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Basket can't defend. He's got the outside line for the second part, and he can't hold on.
Going the long way around. We're going to be 3 wide for the lead as they all come to the line. Who is going to take it in the end?
And here comes Lockwood. He's going to make the move to the outside. Quinn tries to force him off a little bit, but there he goes. It's going to be side by side through turn 1.
Will he be able to cover him off? He does. Weaving back to the left-hand side. Reynolds is trying everything. The kitchen sink is being thrown at it.
They're leaning on each other. Coming into turn number 3. It's going to be a drag race through 3 and 4. Coming back to the line. Here comes Frisch on the bottom. Richard's going to hold the inside. Tries to be the late breaker here. They're going to be side by side through the final chicane. They bang doors, but keep it clean.
As they're still 4 wide on the run down into the back straightaway. Demerit's looking for a line as well. What is going on in Michigan?
Novak into the fence. They're still beating and banging. And to the line.
He is much faster coming through there. Is there damage on Challenger? Abramitis is ahead. There's going to be a race to the line. Who is going to get it?
I think I watched Josh 3 or 4 times before I ran the car. He killed them every race, and it was like stout fields, like good cars, big races, and I mean, he was unbeatable. And I was like, oh man, this is, like, I'm nervous. I was so nervous getting into the car full time this year after watching Josh win 3 or 4 races straight. These cars, they have a lot of horsepower now. They have over 500, and I think 5 years ago they didn't have 450. They're gonna be a handful to drive, but just don't overdrive them. Let the car do the work.
past halfway. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Saturday night coverage of the WSSR Roast to Gems Cup Series. It's the first race of 5 for the playoffs here tonight, as the drivers have a 5-race chase system. They have for the playoffs here this season. Well, we got to give a big shout out to our sponsors here this evening. First one, title sponsor for the WSSR, it's Roasted Gems Coffee. If you'd like to get yourself some great coffee with a wide range of varieties that you can go check out today, head to their website, roastedgems.com, for some great coffee, as well as some great merch to be repping. And when you are purchasing from Roasted Gems, remember to use the promo code WSSR for 5% off on your next purchase. Also, huge thanks to Trophy Smack. Trophy Smack has been the main Trophy Smack has been the main trophy for the WSSR for the past 2 seasons with getting their championship ring. It is a quality ring that impresses everyone, and you can get yourself your own Trophy Smack trophy from going to TrophySmack.com. They've got trophies, they got championship belts, rings, and as well a wall smack. A metal plate that's got your own image that you would like to put on, completely customizable and priced perfectly to fit your wallet. Head over to TrophySmack.com and use the promo code WSSRCUP, that's WSSRCUP, for 10% off on all purchases. Thanks so much, ladies and gentlemen, for watching the WSSR Roast Gems Cup Series. My name is Sam Dyer. With me is Troy Earhart and Trevor. First pit stops are done. Some have already started on their second, but we are 80 laps already in the books.
Yeah, 80 laps done just like that. Zach Hall, I think, has led Sam pretty much all of them, apart from the first lap and a couple of laps there in the cycle of the pit stops. But looking pretty dominant for that 42 machine. Larry Yingling up to second position as he continues his drive through the field, kind of stalled out now at about 3 seconds behind that of Zach Hall, but having a good run for himself. And then Tom Sinchek and Cedric Hunter up to 3rd and 4th. So both of those drivers having a good run, as Ryan Bird here doing battle with Christopher Norris, trying to close in on the 07 of Justin Lewis.
And Justin Lewis trying to have a recovery run. He was one of the earlier drivers to come into pit road for the 07. His tires fell away almost immediately in that first run. It's currently in 7th place for the 07. Not a bad position if you look at the numbers, but he is being caught by Ryan Bird and Christopher Norris. I know we're past halfway. We haven't seen a yellow yet here this evening. We had a couple of scares. Steven Stimpian caught speeding under pit road under his green flag pit stop. He has called it a night. Corey Ennis had a bad wreck. Self-spin by himself that has forced him to be 18 laps down after getting his damage repaired. Tyler Dangler also having to get repairs done. It's forced him to be 6 laps down. Besides that, no yellows. And Trevor was looking at the stats while we were on a commercial break. This league has had 4 total caution-free races. Now, that is kind of a oddball stat when you look at the fact that 2 of those 4 were road courses where the yellow was not supposed to be thrown. But that's still a crazy stat to look at when you look at the amount of races that have been ran this season and 4 of them going caution-free. And tonight, the potential will be number 5.
Yeah, the potential is really high there. And you think back, the first one was the road course, but then we went to Nashville, Sam, and it went caution-free. Nashville, kind of a similar style, flat track to here at Kentucky, so a potential that we see it again here tonight. And then I think the biggest oddball from all the caution-free races we've seen this season, Talladega. I mean, who would have thought that a Talladega race was going to go caution-free?
You know, Talladega, we've been watching a lot of that. We've also seen other leagues perform well at Talladega. I think it's just because of the fact it's so wide. Drivers are starting to realize we don't have to run over one another. But that track has got to develop to be a lot more less cautions when it used to be 100% solidified. You're going to have a big wreck. It's going to cause calamity, and you're going to see a couple of yellows thrown. But no cautions for the last time these drivers were at Talladega. Then we had the Roval USA that last week, and these drivers have had a wide string of different racetracks with the playoffs. Let's take a look at how these drivers are going to be tackling for the rest of the playoffs. Tonight, Legacy, Kentucky, a different style of racing, but it doesn't get any easier. Next week, the drivers go to New Hampshire, a track that is going to be very tough, a lot skill-oriented, and a lot of these drivers have found issues at that track. Race number 3 at Iowa, then the drivers head to Atlanta, 2008 configuration of the Hotlanta, and we finish off the season at Homestead. Gotta say, this schedule, I love it as a viewer.
Yeah, as a viewer, it's going to be great. I mean, you go to the flat track in New Hampshire, which in this car can be it can be quite a handful at New Hampshire, just to say the least. It can get quite loose on you. And then you go to Iowa, which, not a track these cars run around, but really bumpy in 1 and 2, kind of flat through 3 and 4, take different lines through there. So that'll be a good one. And then, of course, everybody's favorite, the old style of Atlanta, where tire wear is going to be key. It's going to be interesting to see how this car handles around that racetrack. And then Homestead, I mean, I think that's everybody's favorite track, with kind of the multiple grooves that you can run around that racetrack and how you can get passes done. I think that's going to be a great race to finish off the season.
It certainly is. And the goal of the playoffs, have the most points after collecting all the points from all 5 of those races in the playoffs. It's a chase format, not a bracket format like we see a lot of the other leagues that we cover, which it's playoff season for Freaky Fast Broadcasting. All the leagues that we cover here on Freaky Fast Broadcasting are in the playoffs. All the races that we cover from Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and of course here on tonight on Saturdays. And you've been seeing them out on our bottom board, clicking away of the times if you'd like to go watch any of the other races that we cover. And if you haven't watched it already or listened to it, we have the full-length interview of Robert Moyer Jr. with Rich Jamison, who you see on screen. The 86 got to have almost an hour-long conversation with Robert Moyer, talking about racing, what got him into racing, life experiences, and as well talking about WSSR and how it's been racing out on track, part of the cool-down lap. And that extended interview, again, is live if you'd like to go watch it after this race is done. And Trevor, I think that's been a joy of having the cool-down lap, giving us, as Freaky Fast Broadcasting members, get to talk to the drivers and give a little bit more in-depth conversations, as well as just get to know the drivers a little bit more.
Yeah, it's made it a lot of fun, and kind of gives you a little bit of a personal feel toward the leagues and drivers. I mean, I had so much fun working with the guys over there at Full Send on Tuesday nights, getting to interview them and learn about them, and then going back and listening to it for guys from Monday night, Wednesdays, Thursdays, and here on Saturdays. I mean, it's just been a blast getting to know drivers that you cover, but necessarily don't get to talk to on a day-to-day basis.
And getting those in-depth conversations, as we have 3 episodes already out in full. Some of them have an extended talking points that we also have personal interviews, so you can go watch out there today. As I know, coming up in the next week, we're expected to be also having the drivers are excited for the top 5 finishes, expected to come out sometime next week, and episode 4 of the Cool Down Lap later this month. But here at Freaky Fast Broadcasting, we're excited for it. We've got ourselves a charity event. It is our second and final one of the year. So if you want to be a part of some Freaky Fast Broadcasting magic this year, we've got our own charity event that we are so excited for. It's the Gamers Outreach 600. We're taking the Gen 4 Cup cars, high horsepower, slipping and sliding to Charlotte Motor Speedway for 600 miles, 400 laps, and it's all for a great cause. And Trevor, it all happens June 10th.
Cannot wait for June 10th to get here. It's going to be a great event, great cause, a fun car to drive, and a long, grueling race. That is going to be one that is going to be fun to take part of, and to go back and watch the great coverage that you and Zach Hall are going to put on for Freaky Fast Broadcasting when we get to that.
Yeah, I cannot wait for it. I know drivers have already started to show on our Discord, as that is the place to go, our community Discord here on Freaky Fast Broadcasting, for great information, as you can check out in chat to go hit that link to check out our community channel, where the details for the race are, as well as drivers already showing off their schemes that they're going to be having. Can't wait for it. Texas Speed, they have a large group going to be racing in our Gamer Outreach 600. A lot of them raced back in our first charity race of the year for our Daytona 500 race for the Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation. And it's great to see drivers wanting to come back for a great cause. It's simple, it's easy. Hit that link, go to our community channel, go to the events tab, where you can go donate to race, as it's only a minimum of $5. You can donate more if you'd like, or you can just share about the event, the fact that it's showing up June 10th. It's our Gamer Outreach 600 for Freaky Fast Broadcasting. Thank you again to everyone else that has already signed up. We got already over 20 drivers, close to over 25, that have already signed up. We want the field to be filled, which means you've got to be sharing or driving. Can't wait yet to see you out on track. As Trevor, We are marching to lap 100, and that means we're almost ready for another round of pit stops.
Yeah, almost ready for another. Actually, it's just starting. The 47 of Isaac Bach down pit road. Larry Yingling in pit at a second position, as he was one of the early ones in our top 5 to make his pit stop the first time around. Larry going to come down pit road early again, and interesting call there from Larry. I mean, he was still within about 3 seconds of Zach Hall, so holding strong there, but going to come down, get 4 fresh tires, and see if he can still try to close in that gap. But Sam, I'm kind of been watching the 28 of Brian Johnson. Now Zach Hall going to come down pit road.
Zach Hall not wanting to give any space or timing to the driver of Larry Yingling. He was feeling the pressure and didn't want to fight any type of dirty air. He's going to come into pit road early. And for Zach Hall, this is about 3 or 4 laps sooner than I think a lot of drivers were expecting. And Trevor, like you were going to talk about, Brian P. Johnson, he was only 5 seconds off our leader.
Yeah, he was only 5 seconds off, but the lap before that Zach pit, Zach was actually a 10th quicker than Brian Johnson, even though they had an 8-lap difference in tires. But Brian now, with that advantage, is Sinchek going to come down pit road. And what's really interesting here is Larry's pit stop pulled down everybody that was on that came down lap 50, 55 range. They've all come down pit road pretty much together, apart from Brandon Cawley, Crowfoot, Jameson, and Martin Morales. But in Sinchek's down pit road. Now, this is just really interesting that all these guys come down here 3 or 4 laps earlier than what I think they typically would have with Larry coming down pit road.
And this has got to be such a head scratcher for Brian, because he's leading this race for the 28, and he gave up over 12 seconds of time to the rest of the field to stay out an extra 10, 15 laps than everyone else. And now he might be forced to come into pit road early, where he's given up so much time, but he cannot afford to lose more ground, because there's only a certain amount of laps that you can truly give up before those tires equal out. And for Brian, this has got to be a frustrating moment for the 28 as you see Tyler Dangler and our producer's favorite scheme, the Ford Viper, out there on track. And Tyler Dangler out here in 20th place. He's been able to recover after early wrecks and getting repairs done. This 19, though, he's back here and just kind of driving his own race as he's 7 laps down. No positions to be gained, none to lose, but lucky and able to show off this car at the nighttime.
Such a good looking car. Even in at night, I think it looks even better. But, just, hey, if something happens to somebody in front of him, he's still out on track, has a chance to gain some positions if some people in front of him have issues. And Brandon Cawley now down pit road, Martin Morales, Thomas Walter down pit road. And Sam, I'm just curious what Brian Johnson, Ryan Bird are going to decide to do here, if they're going to stay out on this extended run, because technically, based off of where Johnson hit on lap 62, I mean, he could technically go to about 124 before he has to make another pit stop.
Yeah, he can go for quite a while. And I think if you're Ryan Johnson, at this point, you stay out. You got to have to stay out and bank on a caution to try to reset this race in some fashion, because if you come into pit road and just, throw the white flag already, if you're going to be coming into pit road with everyone else, but here comes into pit road, doesn't want to give up any more time. And Trevor, this is such a bizarre type of a race, and the way that this is translated out, because we still have a number of other drivers, about 6, that still need to hit pit road, and now give the lead to the late apex driver of Ryan Bird in the 49.
Yeah, and Bird on that kind of same pit strategy that Brian Johnson was on. So the question is, how long is that 49 going to stay out? Crowfoot still needs to make his pit stop. He last pitted on lap 56. Jameson down pit road. So that's just going to leave Ryan Bird and Ryan Crowfoot, our last drivers to make their pit stops. And Sam, if you're that of Brian Johnson, I just feel like you gave up maybe a chance to potentially flip the pit strategy on everybody by coming down when he did.
Really did. And now another driver caught with the black flag. Rich Jameson caught speeding on entry for the 86. That's a frustrating moment for himself. Now going to have to deal with a 40-second hold. It's going to be putting him 2 laps down. And as well, Cedric Hunter, I believe he got caught with a penalty with a 13 as he was in pit road for extended time. And getting caught with penalties seem to be the similar situation that's happened to a lot of these drivers. And talking about points, Cedric Hunter being 2 laps down with that hold penalty, this could be gifting the championship already to Zach Hall. if he doesn't have any issues moving forward with already the massive points gap that he had over Vincent Sora, who didn't show up here tonight. Now with Cedric Hunter back trapped in 18th place, and Brandon Colley is going to be the next driver in line that needs a good run to keep the points battle at least close with the 42.
Yeah, and Colley all the way down there in 9th. And then right behind him, I mean, you have Brian Johnson. He's in 4th, but Sammy now he's got to try to run back down, Zach Hall. But he's got to get through Tom Sinchek, Larry Yingling, and get to Zach. And he's only got that of about a 5-lap difference in tires compared to the last run was 8 laps. And yeah, he was closing in on Zach, but it was like every other lap they were switching between who was faster. So I don't think Brian Johnson's going to be able to run down that 42 machine unless he gets to battling with Larry Yingling, who's only that of about a 1.5 seconds off the 42.
As Ryan Bird now hits pit road, still Jonathan Cogswell and James Hackworth Jr. needing to make their pit stop as they are in line, seeing how these strategies will come to fruition. Some of the closest battles on track going to be in the middle of the field for position. As you see behind, Christopher Norris getting a great shot of James Hackworth Jr. battling with James Kaufman as well as Brandon Colley. Colley in a better position, about to be forcing it 3 wide, and he will on the exit turn 4, forcing it 3 wide. Hackworth Jr. is going to back out of it. Kaufman keeps in the throttle. As that of James Kaufman already is coming to pit road. He's got 3 lap pressure tires in the one machine as he is forcing the issue, and Colley finally able to keep position for now, but he's got to watch out because the speed is coming with the 13. It's Cedric Hunter in the black.
Yeah, Cedric Hunter on the charge after that pit road issue that he had, trying to work his way through the field. He's going to dive it to the inside now of the 25 of Kaufman. I think they're about on the same set of tires. Actually, Kaufman on a little bit newer tires in the 13 machine, but Cedric Hunter going to try to get this away from him as well. That's actually going to be a battle for position here and the potential lucky dog if there were to be a caution as these two battle it out, and Cedric Hunter's going to take that position away.
Cedric Hunter behind the one machine. Still a lot of drivers to get by. If you're Cedric Hunter, he's going to catch up to Thomas Walter, Bob Skinner, as well as Martin Morales. But it's Isaac Mock, who's in his debut race here tonight, 47 and 13th place. Currently the first car 1 lap down. If you're just joining with us, 108 laps in the book. No caution has been thrown. And you are watching the Legacy Kentucky 225 here tonight. First race of the playoffs for these WSSR Roasted Gems Cup Series drivers. The drivers that you see on our ticker in red, those are your playoff contenders that have shown up here tonight. 3 drivers did not. That's Vincent Sora, Kyle Rochelle, and Brad Delft did not show up, and that's practically throwing the white flag on their chances for a championship. But it's Zach Hall, the regular season champion, up front leading the way, and Trevor, we're coming up to 40 laps to go, and Zach Hall with a 2-second lead over Larry Yingling, who Larry was not able to gain the difference that he was hoping to grab by pitting early.
Closed it in by about a second, and only a 1 lap difference between the two. But I think Zach's just got the long run speed over the 67 and the 8 of Sinchek. It's going to be the question of, Brian Johnson, is he going to be able to do anything? He's 11 seconds off that of Zach Hall. Can he close that gap down? As looking at the times, you can just see Zach and Larry fairly close on times, but Zach just a little bit quicker lap by lap.
Lap by lap, just a little bit quicker, as you can see there on screen. It's driver in green. That is meaning that you are gaining time on that driver ahead. When it's in white, means the driver that's on top is pulling away, and Zach Hall will see this next time by once again for the 4th lap, pulling away just slightly. We're keeping it equal distance.
Yeah, and this is exactly what Zach Hall needs to do. Just run his race, run at his own pace, and hold on to this gap that he has. And Sam, barring a caution, I honestly just don't think anybody's going to catch this 42 machine here tonight. He's just been so dominant once he got to that lead position.
It's so difficult to say that someone is going to beat this 42 unless a caution flag comes out. As the time clicks in, once again, keeping it equal or gaining a little bit of time. The 42 just is putting down burners. He's been the fastest driver on the short run, the fastest driver in the medium run, and also on the longest run. He has been quick, fast, but if anyone could catch him, it would be the 67 of Larry Yingling. And as Larry is trying his best to close into the gap, maybe save some tires for later on in this run, We here at Freaky Fast Broadcasting are going to take our final commercial break. When we come back, we will take you to the end of this Legacy Kentucky 225 for the WSSR Roasted Gems Cup Series. It's the playoffs. It's been a good one. You're watching here on Freaky Fast Broadcasting, caution free, and we're going to go side by side once again. We'll be back right after this.
The best, you got them for abreast. Often imitated, never duplicated. The greatest show on dirt, the World of Outlaws. Dirt Racing will be available September 27th. Pre-order your copy today.
He's following, they're wrecking, they're splitting, and it's a complete mayhem.
We have a wreck at the front. 19 goes down into the 7, takes out the double zero.
They're 5 wide behind for fifth. Oh my. 5 wide here, this ain't gonna work, is it? They're already wrecking into turn 1, and now coming through that of turn 2. making contact. Sainz gets into the wall. Gonna be scattering on the outside. Drivers on the apron. Drivers coming out of nowhere. Edison on the outside trying to get the win. And it's William Edison stealing it at the line.
The wall. The 18 trying to block. 77 to get into the 18. That leaves 3 of TJ Roberts. 17 to Gavin Rogers. 3 of TJ Roberts is going to steal the win here.
What second fiddle so many times last season. Christopher Wade wins the season 5 Daytona 200. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the WSSR Roasted Gems Cup Series. It's Season 6 playoff racing. The first race of the playoffs is underway here at Kentucky. These drivers have ran 124 laps, and it's been clean green all the way through. So you haven't missed much. It's been the Zach Hall show as Ryan Bird making the pass on Christopher Norris, who's in the all black. Got a couple of drivers in the all black with issues from third-party servers that are giving you the wrong schemes for some of these drivers. There's been no issues throughout the day. We're sorry for that, Christopher Norris, as well as a few others that maybe don't have the right schemes for themselves. But thank you so much for joining with us here on Freaky Fast Broadcasting. My name is Sam Dyer. With me is Trevor Earhart, Ron Moore Jr. running productions in the background. Trevor, about to be 25 laps to go, and Zach Hall has been looking quick, strong, but the last couple of laps, Larry is thinking about spicing things up.
Yeah, looking at the lap, I mean, that last lap, almost 3/10 quicker, Larry over Zach, and he's closed that gap. It was 2.5 seconds, now down to about 1.5 seconds, and Tom Sinchek not too far behind that of Larry. So, I mean, if they get to battling, that can really close things in, and then you got Brian Johnson just lurking back there in 4th position with the freshest tires. So, I mean, if the top 2, top 3 get to battling, this could really change up the complexity of this race.
3 different drivers, so many different storylines on how they've been running. The pole setter, Zach Hall, has gotten the lead. The only laps he hasn't led is in the middle of the green flag pit cycle, and as well lap 1. Besides that, it's been all the 42. Larry Yingling has been the dominator of the long run, but the driver who went with the biggest oddball strategy is the driver back in 4th place of Brian P. Johnson, who is currently about that a little bit over 6 seconds off of our leader. But he is trying his best to close in on the gap. Like you said, Trevor, some of the freshest tires of those inside of our top 5. Those that are behind the top 5, Ryan Bird with the freshest tires on track. The drivers are in the top 10, a little bit too far back to try to close in the gap. It's really just down to our top 4 on who's going to win this race. And looking at it, Zach Hall's trying to minimize the gap of time that he's losing, which is done all right to stabilize now. But Trevor, it's not over yet because of how fast the 28 is.
Yeah, I mean, not over, but looking, I don't know if Zach's maybe just going easy here a little bit, but I mean, that time by pretty equal to what Larry ran, and only about 2/10 off of what that of Brian Johnson ran. Tom Sinchek, Brian Johnson, 3rd and 4th, the fastest 2 cars of our top 4 that last time by. But, you know, it's interesting seeing Zach struggle this bad. Typically, we've seen him pull away at this point in the race, even with Larry being behind him. But Larry's still taking chunks out of that lead, now down to almost a second between those 2 drivers.
We also got to remember, Larry decided to really back off his pace, kind of gave up some time to Zach. He was hitting pretty aggressively in the first 2 laps of this run, then backed off, and now is starting to find that pace that he wants to have to close in on this gap. And if you're talking about the championship, this is what's necessary. Zach Hall, because of Vincent Sora not showing up here tonight, he was busy with prom. Then Cedric Hunter struggling tonight in 14th. Brandon Golly, yes, he's in 6th, but this is still losing ground to Zach Hall. Brian Johnson's in 4th, going to be losing points. Tom Sinchek is in 3rd, trying to minimize that gap. Larry in 7th. But with Zach Hall right now, he is set to grab the maximum amount of bonus points, which is lead a lap, lead the most laps, and win the race. That equals out to 3 extra bonus points. 42 is looking good with 20 laps to go.
Looking good, but lurking behind him, black and blue 67, Larry Yingling still just being kind of a menace to Zach Hall. I'm sure he's looking at his relative and seeing this gap continue to close down bit by bit to that of about a tenth and a half for Larry quicker than Zach Hall. Now it's under a second going into 3 and 4 and continuing to shrink. Sam, that 67 machine is coming for the lead.
And now going to be within a second, which means he's starting to get a little bit of the draft. But factor we haven't touched on a lot here tonight, because we've seen how much tires have been more of the bigger factor to talk about. Dirty air. How is this going to influence the 67? Because we know Larry, when he gets up to the drivers ahead, likes to pull it down, try to get a little bit more clean air by getting close to the yellow line through the corners. With him closing into Zach Hall, less than now 9/10 is the difference. He's going to be there. The question is, can he make the pass? That's always the true question when it comes to these races.
And we've seen Larry be good, get to the inside, be able to get to the inside of drivers. Just hasn't quite. We saw him struggle earlier in the race to get those passes done with how loose the car got on him. But with the lap times he's running, I think he might stand a chance to get around this 42 of Zach Hall. Again, almost 2/10 quicker than Zach Hall. And Tom Sinchek there about 3 seconds back, and Brian Johnson about 4.5 seconds back. If this battle lasts any length of time, it could really bring the 8 and 28 into play, and we could see a four-car race for the lead in the win.
And Larry was the driver that pitted sooner. He's got the 1 lap a disadvantage. He pitted a lap sooner than Zach Hall. Zach was supposed to have the advantage. He would pull away and stay pulled away. It's now down to less than 7/10. 17 laps to go. Zach Hall, Larry Yingling. This turned into an actual race here at the end. For the majority of this run, it felt like it was the Zach Hall show. He was going to walk away, and it was just all about that of the 42. The 67, Larry Yingling, one of the most dominant drivers in the first 3 seasons of WSSR. He is fighting, clawing, and he wants to be the first driver to win in the playoffs.
I mean, what a story it would be for Larry to take 2 seasons off, come back, brand new car, that he's never been in, and come in, win the first race of the playoffs, and potentially give himself a shot to win his 3rd championship here this season if he can get the win here tonight. And now down to half a second between Zach and Larry. The gap to Tom Sinchek kind of equaled out, 2.7 seconds. Brian Johnson doing everything he can. He's got the gap down now to under 4 seconds. But he's slowly running out of time as it looks like his speed kind of started to taper off, and that new tire advantage that he had starting to even out with our race leaders.
Crosses the line. Another massive chunk divvied in. Zach Hall, Larry Yingling. It is no longer an if, it is when is this pass going to be made. 15 laps to go. And Zach is now in one of the most difficult positions he's been in all night long, because that 67 is right on the back bumper. It's hard to see sometimes in the shot, but he's right there. And I gotta say, Trevor, this race just turned upside down. What a long run pace Larry has, but has Zach been just playing a possum, or did he just overcook those tires in the first 20 laps?
I don't know. I was thinking maybe he was saving tires, but with how quick Larry's running down, I think he might have overdone it. You can see the wiggling out of turn number 2. And this is reminiscent of Nashville. This is exactly what Larry did at Nashville. Wasn't the quickest at the start of the race, but as the race progressed and we went green the whole way, that 67 machine was so quick. And here he is right on the rear bumper of Zach Hall as it crossed the line. He might have a look at him down here into turn 1 and 2.
Watching these drivers, little small ways you can gain and lose time. Zach Hall very aggressive on when he wants to shift up into 5th. Larry is being a lot more patient, and the patience is being rewarded. Now to the inside quarter panel. Larry Yingling going to be thrown into the inside, down into turn number 3. The 67. He'd been fighting, clawing. At one moment was 5 seconds off the lead. He now takes the lead, coming to 12 to go. Zach Hall, a little bit of a bump. Now going to be trying to fight to the inside. Larry's going to block as they come across the line. Larry Yingling's your leader with 12 laps to go here at the Legacy, Kentucky.
Unbelievable drive from Larry to run down the 42, the most dominant car all night, and he's just going to pull away from him here, Sam. I mean, just look at the gap he's already gotten to that of Zach Hall. 5-6 car lengths just out of turn number 2. Tom Sinchek now only about that of a second and a half off of Zach Hall, and Brian Johnson right on the bumper of Tom Sinchek. And if Zach continues at this free fall rate that he's going, he might potentially end up P4 in this race.
It's just a question of what happened to the 42. He is a completely different machine from the last pit stop. The first two-thirds of this race was all Zach Hall. Throw it away. It is all Larry Yingling now with 11 laps to go, pulling away, and the fastest driver on track is the 67 of those that are inside the top 10, faster than drivers that even pitted that of almost 10 laps early. I mean, it's later than Larry Yingling.
It's just unbelievable the speed that Larry still has on that car with how old those tires are. I mean, he's even on older tires than Zach Hall and just blew by him. Like there was a 5-lap difference in tires and continuing to drive away. But I mean, you can see how much Zach's struggling there. The little snap of oversteer on him on corner exit kept it out of the wall. But that 42, Sam, looks really loose. And Tom Sinchek only about 1.3 seconds off the 42, and he has a potential chance to close in battle Zach here before this race is over with 9 laps to go.
And you see there, riding on more Zach Hall, the exit to turn 4, really had to make sure he stayed off the outside wall, which he had to slightly hold off, losing time on the exit. And just watching the two different drivers and styles that they're running, they're both shifting, they're both climbing up into 5th gear, but Larry Yingling just seems a lot smoother. When he gets into the throttle, he gets into it smoothly and then keeps in the throttle. Well, Zach Hall, he's jabbing the throttle. He's trying to get up to speed as soon as possible, and the rear end's just not liking it, and also the timing that he's getting into the throttle is putting him so close to the outside wall that he's just losing time by having to scrub off, not hit the wall. 8 to go. Larry Yingling pulling away, and now the gap, the battle, it's all about second place. How far will the 42 fall?
3/10 that last time by. Looking at our leader, Larry ran a 33 flat. Sinchek with a 33 flat. Johnson with a 33 flat. Zach Hall, 33.3. And Brian Johnson is right behind Tom Sinchek. Sinchek now under a second to the 42 machine. 7 laps to go. And Sam, there's a potential that the most dominant car all night finishes 4th position, and this could shake up the playoffs as Sinchek and Johnson, as well as Larry, will all gain points on the 42.
And Trevor, this all stems back to that last pit stop. Remember, Larry Yingling was the first one to come into pit road, and it was so much sooner than we were expected. He pitted about 5 laps sooner than most times that we thought drivers were going to think about pitting, and it threw off Zach. Zach then came into pit road the lap after that, caused a huge chain reaction that I think for Zach Hall would have been better if he stayed out longer, saved these tires, because he ran so aggressively to keep the gap over Larry Yingling, expecting the 67 to catch up sooner. Larry played the long con, played the long game, and he was there at the end with 6 laps to go. The gap from first to second, almost a second and a half, and the gap from second to third is only a half a second. Oh boy, again. This is an incredible change-up of this story that we had coming into the night.
Tortoise versus the hare, I mean, kind of thing going on. I mean, Larry just slowly, methodically worked his way through the field. I mean, we saw him drop back to that of 12th from the start of the race, dropped 5 positions, worked his way through the field. Then through pit cycles has driven past Zach Hall, and Zach now, the fastest car all night. He's really in danger here, Sam. 5 to go, of losing these 2 positions to Ryan Burt or to Tom Sinchek and Brian Johnson.
Oh, it is highly likely. I don't think it's an if, it's a when. When will Tom Sinchek and as well Brian Johnson get by this 42? He's just so much slower than them. Honestly, these drivers could even try to move up to the outside lane, and they might have the runs to make a crossover move, and it looks like that's exactly what Tom Sinchek's trying to do. Do a little bit of an arcing move, carry some more momentum, and try to set up here in the entry of turn 3 or the entry 2, as he's not close enough, but at least he's got 3 more laps to go for the attempt. Zach Hall under pressure. He could fall down to 4th place when he led over 100 laps here tonight. Zach Hall defending the best that he can, but Trevor, there's just nothing he can really do at this point.
It's just got to be such a heartbreaking feeling for Zach Hall. Sinchek gets into him.
Sinchek gonna be making contact. They hold on. Zach Hall able to continue forward, almost bringing out the late yellow. As that gets, that's one way to hold on to the car. As Tom Sinchek pinched, holds it. Brian Johnson now setting up for how to make the pass here. Zach Hall able to defend for at least one position. Can he hold the line for another? Brian to the inside, now on the exit turn 4. They both wiggle, but it's the 28 with the run coming across the line. 2 laps to go, and Zach falls to 3rd.
I mean, you can just tell how much of a handful these cars are. Zach's going to try to hold it, finish that 28 machine down to as best as he can to the bottom. But Johnson, those fresher tires, going to get the drive off. Zach a little bit of a wiggle as he tries to defend it, but he's going to lose that second place position to the 28 machine. But I mean, what a save from Zach and Tom Sinchek when Sinchek dove it into turn number 1 to keep them going straight. But out of turn number 4, Larry Yingling coming to the white flag saying there's nobody around that 67 machine.
It's your Roasted Gems Coffee white flag. Go use the promo code WSSR for 5% off. Larry leads the way out of 2.
I mean, he's smooth sailing down the backstretch for himself. Brian Johnson's cleared that of Zach Hall. Tom Sinchek not going to have anything for that 42 as Larry comes through 3 and 4 for the final time.
Larry Yingling, we said from the beginning of the season when he first joined, just wait for the playoffs. The 67 will be the biggest threat to watch out for, and he is here tonight. Winner of playoff race number 1 goes to Larry Yingling in the 67.
What a turn of events here tonight, Sam. A race that we thought was done, dusted. You could write it down in the books. Zach Hall was going to win this race, and out of nowhere, here comes Larry Yingling to get the win here tonight. Zach throws it into the wall out of frustration after crossing the finish line. Brian Johnson comes home 2nd. And man, what a wild last 20 laps of that race.
I mean, that whole entire last run from when they decided to come into pit road on lap that of 96. We were aiming for 100, maybe 105. Lap 110 was the window to come into pit road. The lap 96 was the lap, and it's the 67. Great pickup, great decision, as he will get to burn it down here tonight. Larry Yingling, Brian P. Johnson, Zach Hall. We'll talk to those 3 in a spotlight driver after this, but let it burn. Larry Yingling wins playoff race number 1. We'll be back for the post-race show right after this. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the post-race show of the WSSR Roasted Gems Cup Series. What a finish we got to see here at the Legacy Kentucky 225, the start of the playoffs. Finished off with an incredible run. Zach Hall losing out to Larry Yingling's incredible push at the end. The 67 somehow had the tires to get it done, to get by the most dominant car of the night. Larry, it's Sam and Trevor up in the booth. I mean, from our point of view, it seemed like this race was done and dusted with 100 and about 10 laps left. 110 laps into this race. Those final 40 laps. What got you to beat Zach? And man, how are you feeling after this?
Oh, I feel great. Yeah, the very start of the run or the race, me qualifying poorly again, I figured I would try to save some fuel. And I think I would have made it on one stop, but how far away Zach was and the entire pack in front of me, I caught an audible, like, I think lap 15 or so. So I just figured where to go. And I think I got up to 4th or 5th. Then usually I'm one of the last cars to pit in a pit cycle. I knew how fast I was at the end of the run. So I think I started either the first or second pit cycle and trying to jump some guys. And yeah, the very beginning of the run, I think Zach and I was even. Then middle of the run, he was better. And then the end of the run, I was a tick faster. And I figured he would pit around 100, 101, something like that, to make it even on all runs. But considering how fast I was, I believe, compared to him on a very long run, I knew I had make the last run longer to give myself a chance to catch him. So I pit 5 laps early, which brought everyone down. And he got up to, I think, 2.5 seconds, 3 seconds. Then I think he got stuck behind a car a little bit. Then I got stuck behind someone a little bit. Then I just start slowly taking away some time like I have the whole race at the very long run. Then I saw him getting loose when I knew I was already powered down at that point. So I just knew as long as I just stayed in my rhythm, I might have a chance, and I got to him. I was fairly surprised how quickly I got by him. I was, compared to everyone else I tried to pass earlier, it was a little bit hard, but he was just too loose and probably tight loose at the same time. And once I got by him, I just knew, hit my marks, and like 3 or 4 to go. I saw Brian 2 seconds back. I'm like, geez, he's got to be on fresher tires or something. So I start going full bore, but then the 3 of them behind me start going at it, and I was brought home.
I mean, Larry, second win of the season in your first season back, and in the new car. I mean, closing a little bit on Zach in the playoff picture. I mean, how are you feeling about potentially going for your 3rd championship? I mean, we go to New Hampshire, Iowa, then I believe Atlanta after that. I mean, how are you feeling about the next couple of races coming up and building on the momentum that you gained here tonight?
I think I had a pretty decent chance. I knew the regular season schedule I didn't really like. Probably half the races, I just was not a fan of the track selection. So I knew with me being, I forget what the wording would be, not experienced with this car, just take those races and learn. But I knew the playoff schedule I really liked. So if I can just figure out the car, which I think I found something this week, I think I can hopefully continue to replicate it. But one thing I definitely need to work on is qualifying. I think that almost cost me the race tonight, and I just need to figure out how I used to do it back then and try to do it here.
Well, Larry, we can't wait to see how much more you're going to progress throughout the playoffs. And before we let you go, the floor is now yours for any shout-outs.
Big shout out to all my teammates this race: Zach Hall, Cedric Hunter, Brandon Cawley, Steven Stempion, Christopher Norris, and James Hackworth. And a massive shout out to James, Carolyn, and DeAndre down in the boot. And for my sponsors, Muffin Sports Cards and Port City Cards. If you enjoy the hobby of collecting cards, check them out on Instagram. Big praise to you guys for doing the broadcast. I look forward to watching this. And on next week, whatever track that is.
Well, congratulations again, Larry, on this win, and good luck next week in New Hampshire.
Thank you, sir.
Well, from victory lane, let's go to second place, where we have that of the 28 machine. Brian P. Johnson with us. Brian, congratulations on second. Know you went with an oddball strategy, comes away with a pretty decent finish for yourself, but man, how are you feeling after that chaotic final 20 laps?
Man, pretty good. Pretty tired. That last run, I drove pretty hard. But yeah, I knew that I did not have the pace to beat those guys outright on the same tires. So I was like, well, I got to do something different. And if that means staying out longer and getting the caution grade, or if not, and we stay green the whole time like we did, it's like, well, that's fine too. Just as long as I give myself enough laps to catch them at the end, and almost did. I was coming pretty quickly to those top three guys, but Tom's dirty air, man, dirty air is dirty air is pretty bad tonight. Once I got behind him, it just kind of stalled out. But luckily was able to kind of take advantage of a little bit of contact there, and come away with second. Got a lot of seconds this season, but we got to turn those into wins if we're going to win the championship. But yeah, I mean, overall tonight's race was pretty good. I finished better than I thought I would, so I can't complain.
I mean, Brian, what was the car like out there tonight? I mean, we saw a lot of guys, slipping and sliding, especially at a turn number 2, and trying to get passes on the bottom. Looked like it was a struggle. It looked like kind of the groove up from the bottom was the line to run tonight. But I mean, what were you feeling throughout the course of the night?
Yeah, so Kentucky has got those progressive banked corners. So that bottom lane, that's no man's land. You don't want to run there. So it was kind of like the second lane, a little bit of the third lane too. But it's funny that you asked that question, because tonight was kind of the first night I experienced the next gen car kind of undergo a change throughout the race. And I think it all had to do with going from sunset into night. At the beginning of the race, the car was very tight on entry and then very loose on exit. You really had to be careful with the exits, especially at a 2. But as the as the night and the race went on, especially that last run, I mean, you could pretty much floor it from the center of the corner off. It was maybe a little bit less tight on entry, but all the looseness on exit was pretty much gone. The only time I got loose on exit in the last run was once I caught Tom and got into his dirty air, but it was still much better than it was earlier in the night. So that was pretty cool to see, because we hadn't really experienced that all that much. And when a track undergoes a change like that, that kind of separates the pack a little bit more, as far as the faster guys rising to the top. So that was pretty cool to see.
It certainly was cool to see. And Brian, like I said, you've had a lot of second place finishes. Tonight sadly counts as your 6th second place finish of the season. I know you want to translate those into wins, but before we let
Oh
you go, the floor is now yours for any shout outs.
man, that's a shame. But just gotta thank you guys and everybody that tuned in tonight. I hope it was a good race to watch. We went completely green, so yeah, was able to see those strategies play out, which was awesome. Got to thank all the league drivers that showed up here tonight, and all the admins that helped run this thing. Definitely got to thank Roast Jim's Coffee, Trophy Smack. Can't do it without them. Maybe next time I get a win, I'll get another wall smack to congratulate myself on finally getting out of second place. um, but yeah, just yeah, and definitely thank all the league drivers. I know that there's some guys out here tonight that they're not in the playoffs, but they still showed up, so that was pretty cool to see. So give a little extra shout out to them, and that's all I got.
Well, congratulations once again, Brian, to a good finish, and hopefully we can change it to a win next week at New Hampshire, and good luck then. All right, that is going to be the 28 machine of Brian P. Johnson. Going to come away with second. But let's hit a third place, the heartbreaker of the night. Noah driver that wanted the win after dominating the first 2/3 of this race, but comes away third. Zach Hall, Zach and Sam and Trevor up in the booth. I know you wanted the win, but man, how are you feeling, especially after that duel and grueler you were dealing with those final 30 laps?
I don't even, I don't even know if I can put words into it. I'm an idiot. Terrible driver. Probably shouldn't be doing this. Probably should have came here with the championship lead. Probably should have finished off the lead lap. I mean, I don't know. You can't lose races like that. That's just stupid of me. I don't even know how to bounce back from this one. I don't think I've ever been this mad. I mean, I knew I lost Texas in a bitter way, but to lead 118 laps and have 5-second gap the first pit stop, 3-second gap the second pit stop, and then just throw it away like that, that's just uncalled for, and nobody to blame except for my terrible driving self.
I mean, Zach, the one positive to take out of it, I mean, you don't lose by our rough numbers a lot of points. I think maybe 1 point to the guys behind you. 4 races left. New Hampshire next. I mean, is there any positives you're gonna take out of this going into next week?
Yeah, I mean, I would love to take something out of it positive. I think I got like an 8-point gap going into next week, which is good. I mean, that's cool. It grew from the 2-point gap I had coming in with Vincent missing tonight and Cedric speeding on pit road. That helped a lot. But I mean, I don't know how I could be positive after this race. I'm trying to be. I'm trying to make that better, but I just got to stop beating myself. I don't know what it is. I don't know how to explain it. It's just this league. I just seem to always give it up, and I don't know. I can't not find the solution. I just got to be better, and unfortunately, I'm not better.
I mean, Zach, we saw that there was a lot of aggressive driving also late with you and Tom Sinchak having your moment where Tom sent it in and you guys made contact. What was going through your mind at that point when you realized you were no longer racing for the win, but you had to defend for every position possible?
I mean, it was tough. My car was terrible. I mean, the first run of the race was great. Second run was great. The car felt great at the end of the runs and had great tire wear, but I don't know what I changed up. I think the only thing that really kind of threw me off is that a few lap cars come out with brand new tires and kind of just sit right in front of me, and I kind of wanted to get around them just so I didn't have the air, and I think I just killed my stuff there. And from 25 to go on that point, I knew the race was over pretty much at that point. It was just chopping tints out of me. I was trying to cool the tires down, and Larry, I couldn't even fight him when he got to me because he was just that much faster. I saw how fast Tom and them were coming. I knew it was probably the same situation, so I was going to really, throw it in on his door, and I can't blame Tom, though. I mean, he's going for it. The groove's kind of in the second groove, and I kind of shoved them off down into the second part of it. And, at that point, I mean, I kind of got lucky more than anything from the contact because I was finishing fourth, so if that didn't happen. So I guess I can be lucky that he hit me.
Well, Zach, you're still going to be the points leader heading into next week, and before we let you go, the floor is now yours.
Well, thank you guys up in the booth, all the work y'all do. It's always awesome to go back and watch the races. I might not go back and watch this one, unfortunately, because I'll beat myself up some more. But thank you again to all y'all do. Y'all are amazing. The best broadcast booth out there. Shout out to our sponsors, also TrophySmack.com and Roasted Gems Coffee, the two best sponsors we could ask for here at World Series of Sim Racing. And congrats to Larry. He's a heck of a driver, man. I mean, when you got a guy like that behind you, it's got 2 championships and all the wins here in this series, it kind of does play with your head. So I just got to give him credit, and good win to him.
Well, that is going to be your third place finisher, Zach Hall, who will have an 8-point advantage and leading the playoffs heading into New Hampshire next week. Good luck, Zach, on trying to rebound from this race.
Thanks, guys.
Well, from third place, let's go to our spotlight driver, who's actually going to be fourth place finisher, Tom Sinchak, after a very big scare for this late Apex driver. Late, holds on, comes away fourth. Tom, it's Sam and Trevor up at the booth. I mean, you come away fourth. It looked like second was in your grasp, but man, how are you feeling after the performance here tonight?
Feeling all right. I probably should have handled that one a little bit better, but when I saw Brian on my bumper, I was like, it's time to go now because I might lose both spots right here if he gets to the outside or something. So I kind of screwed Zach over. He might have been able to hold off for 2 more laps, but we were moving. We had really good long run speed. So yeah, and I kind of just the track changed too a lot at the end right there, so it was kind of difficult to predict what was going to happen.
I mean, Tom, New Hampshire next week. I mean, I know from having raced against you there a couple of times in previous seasons, a track that you like a little bit. I mean, how are you feeling about going into New Hampshire next week and then Iowa after that?
If the aprons still work, it'll be pretty fun because it's a lot of trick that a lot of people are afraid to do. But if you can master it, especially on the exit of 4, it's pretty quick. But I haven't ran there yet in a long time since the new updates and the next gen car and stuff. So I probably expect it to be the second lane pretty much all the way around. Because tonight when the banking changed, the car got pretty upset, especially in the long run or in the early run. So if you go on that low banking and then drift up a little bit, I think it'll probably be hazardous. So I don't expect it to work. But yeah, I like it. I'm hoping for a top 5. I'm not saying that it's my best track, but I do like New Hampshire.
I mean, Tom, you come into this race a little bit deeper in a points trouble, trying to hunt for that championship. Tonight, after your finish, you're going to be moving up at least a spot into 5th, but still 12 points off from Zach, who's still leading the way. How are you going to mentally prepare, or what are the strategies on trying to cut into that gap? As we only have 4 more races left in this playoffs, and do you feel like there's still a chance for you to go for that championship?
Well, sure, always. But if you look at Zach's stats this year, you can clearly tell that he is the most consistent. I think he has every single top 10 in every single race and the most top 5s and stuff. So if he's got a 12-point lead on me or anybody else, and he runs the way that he has been all season, he doesn't even need to win any races to kind of pull away with it. But he is really, really, really consistent this year. So everybody is going to be chasing him down. I've raced with him at New Hampshire before, and he is pretty good at New Hampshire. I think I've had a conversation about Iowa, so I know he's really good there too. So it's going to be hard to catch him, especially if he stays that consistent like he's been the entire year.
Certainly will be. Well, Tom, I'm excited to see how you're going to perform for these final 4 races of the season. But before we let you go, the floor is now yours for any shout-outs.
Yeah. Shout out to you guys. Can't wait to rewatch this later. I'm sure it was fantastic. We went green the whole time, so that kind of tells you a little bit of a story. Shout out to Late Apex. I'm not sure what happened to Kyle. I think he might be doing something, but for Bird to hold on to 5th is pretty great too. So we go home with a 4-5 and a little momentum going into next week.
We can't wait to see how you're going to perform next week. That is 4th place finisher and spotlight driver here tonight, Tom Sinchek. Congratulations and good luck next week.
Appreciate it. See you guys.
Well, from our interviews, let's give a quick shout out to our sponsors, because we weren't able to talk about Wall Smack because we didn't really have a Wall Smack wreck or moment of the race. But Wall Smack is a Trophy Smack item that you can purchase today. Wall Smack is a way for you to celebrate the moment, or just show them up and celebrate your championships by grabbing yourself a stainless steel work of art with a high gloss metal piece that is completely customizable. As well, it comes with the wall safe magnet mounting system. It allows you to show off your greatest moments or embarrassing moments to others. Go get yourself a Wall Smack today from TrophySmack.com, and as well, go to Rosa Gems Coffee, the 2 major sponsors here at WSSR Rosa Gems Cup Series. What a crazy race, and Trevor, we're getting up the results. The 5th race this season to go caution-free. Certainly a wild one, and this is where the drivers are going to be starting out here. This is how they finish up unofficially here this evening. Larry Yingling, what a charge for the 67 machine. Come away with the win here at the Legacy Kentucky race with that Brian Johnson. Zach Hall finishing off your top 3. Thompson check 4th. 5th, Ryan Bird. Brandon Colley with a recovery run for the 1, comes away 6th. Christopher Norris 7th. Ryan Crowfoot, what a run for the 0-2. Didn't get to touch on that, but 8th place for himself. And Justin Lewis 9th, and Aaron Krolick finishing out your top 10.
I mean, just what a wild night, a race that, you know, we thought was over and done with, and Larry Ealing just charges through the field, gets himself the win. Isaac Mock in his first race had a great run for himself, finishes 11th. Cedric Hunter, after a pit road speeding penalty, ends up in 12th. Jonathan Cogswell, who was running, you know, fairly well for most of the night, just inside the top 10. Most parts of it's going to end up in 14th after I believe he had to make a earlier pit stop than I think he would have liked to. Bob Skinner down there in 17th. Tyler Dangler, after getting into the wall in 20th. Rich Jameson as well had a pit road issue in 19th. Corey Ennis, we saw his incident down the back straightaway 21st, and Steven Stimpian, pit road exit speeding penalty, was the only car to retire tonight, all the way down in 22nd. Salmon, 5th caution-free race, but I mean, what a wild last 20 laps we saw in New Hampshire next week, where who knows what we might see.
I know for Zach, he wanted the win, but if you look at the numbers and the way that it lines up, Finishing third, he led a lap, led the most laps. Those are 2 bonus points that he only lost 1 point to Larry Yingling. And the big thing there is if Larry's not gaining more points, nor is Brian Johnson or anyone else that's left in the playoffs, Zach can have the same exact performance he just had. He has to feel disappointed in the fact that he didn't win, but he could still take the championship. You never know what's going to happen. The chase format, it's not about round base. It's not about just one race. It's about all 5 together. Whoever has the most points out of that 5-race stint wins the championship. Like I said, I think that's the most exciting thing, Trevor, is the fact that even with a bad race, you're not out of it just yet.
No, it's all about being consistent. And I mean, Zach's been that consistent driver. He's got to, not beat himself up too much. Reset, recover, get ready for New Hampshire next week, and just go out there and have a solid, top 5 run, top 3 run, and he'll be fine. If you let it linger, though, we might see that 42 fall apart and could open the door for drivers like Larry and Brian Johnson to maybe steal this championship away.
Brian, he's trying to get his 2nd championship in WSSR history. Larry is trying to get his 3rd in his career. Everyone else looking for their 1st. Well, for tonight, thank you so much for joining with us on Saturday night. If you'd like to go watch some more great racing coverage before our next race for the WSSR at New Hampshire, we got plenty of great content for you. Monday night, it's the ISRC Truck Series as they're getting ready for the round of 8 to see who's going to run for a championship. Tuesday, they're as well in the middle of their playoffs, but it's Wednesday night, the Wicked Racing League Championship race at Kansas. Who's going to get it done? You got to find out Wednesday night, as the Wicked Racing League has had an incredible playoffs, tons of drama, tons of unknowns. As for Thursday night, they're getting prepared for the middle of their playoffs as well. And we're right back here. Saturday night, New Hampshire. Trevor, it certainly is going to be a good one.
Certainly going to be a great race. Flat track. Heard from Tom. I mean, if you can run the apron, we might see, might be in for a little bit of surprise with some lines we see. Could be a kind of a top dominant track, which would be interesting to see as well. Could see some shifting. Who knows what you're going to see, but you're going to want to tune in next Saturday and find out. And the return of Vincent Sora could really spice up the playoffs.
Vincent Sora's chances for a championship might be squandered, but his hopes of stealing some wins and stealing some points certainly still here. Well, again, thank you for joining with us on your Saturday night, watching the WSSR Roast Gems Cup Series here on Freaky Fast Broadcasting. My name is Sam Dyer. With me was Trevor Earhart and Robert Moyer Jr., who ran productions. And for everyone else here at Freaky Fast Broadcasting, thank you for joining with us. Hopefully you enjoyed our broadcast, and we will see you Monday night for our next Freaky Fast broadcast.